we're days removed. Your impression coming away from New Orleans is what, Mike?
We're reminded every so often that if you have an overpowering pass rush that can get home without extra help, it makes it a lot easier to win the Super Bowl. Not necessarily a no-brainer to get there. You got to have the rest of the team and the rest of the pieces in place to get there. But once you get there, it's a lot easier to throttle a high-powered offense. Not that the Chiefs were a high-powered offense this year. It was probably their weakest group of pass catchers in any of their Super Bowl teams. But you just can't do anything. Everybody wants to crap on Mahomes about his performance. How can you do anything when the window closes on your opportunity to find an open receiver before you can find an open receiver because your receivers can't get open with 7 guys in coverage and 4 guys? There were moments where 4 guys beat 7 up front to get through to Mahomes. It really was dominant, and it's the only way you're going to beat the Chiefs. They've lost 2 Super Bowls, and they were blown out in both of them. If it's a close game, the Chiefs are going to win. The only way to beat them is knock them down early and put your foot on their throat and keep it there. I'm surprised the Eagles let up at all. And I think the Chiefs were determined to not have a score that went down in the record books as a complete and total butt whooping. The 2 garbage time touchdowns made it look somewhat respectable. Pay no attention to 40-22. That was 40-6 until the Eagles called off the Dogs.
Yeah, it was one of the biggest tail kickings I've seen in the Super Bowl in the 22 that I've been to. And now the Chiefs are kind of in the same spot as they were the last time they lost so decisively in the Super Bowl, where they got to hit the line. And, Brett Veach did it, and then we saw what happened after that. How confident are you that this next few years of the Chiefs could be as successful as the last, Mike?
I think as long as they have Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid, they're going to be relevant. They're going to have to replace Travis Kelce at some point, probably sooner than later. He's thinking actively about retiring. And for many guys, if you're thinking that actively about it, you've already made your decision. You're just in the process of coming to terms with it, because it's not an easy thing to do. But he's in a position where he can make a lot more money away from football. He's already making more money away from football. He can make even more with his various off-field interests. So they're going to have to replace him. They're going to have to upgrade the receiving core. They're going to have to upgrade the offensive line. They're going to have to work on improving the defensive line. They've got a lot of work to do. And when you have the key piece of quarterback and coach, it makes it easier to do the other things. They'll be determined, though. I think Patrick Mahomes comes out of this game even more focused, even more intent on keeping things on track. The Chiefs aren't dead. They were dead for one game. Don't confuse that with the Chiefs being completely and totally done. They're going to keep going. 7 years with Patrick Mahomes as the starter. The worst outcome is losing the AFC Championship in overtime. That's the worst he's ever done in 7 years. That's not a fluke. So they'll do what they have to do, adjust what they need to adjust, and they'll be back. I don't know if they'll be back in the Super Bowl next year, but until somebody in the AFC can beat them in the playoffs, yeah, it could be the same thing all over again next year, and that's why they have to get better. It's one thing to navigate the AFC. It's another thing to take on the biggest, baddest bully the NFC can put on the field. They've beaten teams that were better than them in the past. They just stepped on a rake on Sunday, and they're going to have to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to avoid an outcome like that in the future.
Mike Florio here on the Rich Eisen Show, contributor of Football Night in America, creator and editor of Pro Football Talk. Check him out on Peacock also. You can see that on Roku. The order of business is now for Howie Roseman is what for Philadelphia?
Well, just keep doing what you're doing. Last year, the draft for them was a luxury proposition. They had no weaknesses. They had no needs. And then they had both Quinyon Mitchell fall to them in round 1 and Cooper DeJean, a guy who got multiple Super Bowl MVP votes, fall to them in round 2. They just are blessed. They're charmed, and they're just going to keep going. Now, they got to find a new offensive coordinator. It'll be their 4th offensive coordinator in 4 years. And we saw what happened after the last Super Bowl appearance when they lost both coordinators. The next year was a debacle. And it's not going to be easy, but this is a team that has the players, just better players than everyone else. And it's a lot easier to win when you got better players than everyone else. You get to a point where you can just tell them what you're going to do and go do it. That's basically what every tush-push play is. You're declaring to the world, this is what we're going to do. Try to stop us, and you can't. So whatever weaknesses they have, and there aren't many, they'll address them, and they'll find a way to keep going. And, we went from the Patriots dynasty right into the Chiefs dynasty. The Eagles disrupted the back end of the Patriots dynasty, and now they're disrupting the midpoint, who knows, of what the Chiefs are doing. The Eagles might be starting their own. We'll see what they do next year.
And what with contracts for Sirianni, Zach Bond, like that? What is that to-do list look like?
Well, Sirianni's got 1 year left under contract, and there was an item over the weekend about how a Super Bowl win could be worth many more millions to him. I really don't know what his leverage would be, because he could do what Kevin O'Connell was thinking about doing, the Vikings coach. If he didn't get the kind of extension he wanted, he could have coached out the final year of his contract in 2025 and become a free agent, which rarely happens for coaches for a variety of reasons. Sirianni could do that if he wants to. He'll get an extension. The question is, how much more money does owner Jeffrey Lurie put on the table because they finished the job? Sirianni was not in the thick of things in the voting for Coach of the Year. He was very low on the final ballots that were put out there, and he's got one of the best teams. So they'll get it worked out. I don't think they're going to be worried about him walking away. And if he would walk away after 2025, they'd be lining out the door to replace him, because this talented team is going to keep going. You mentioned Bond. He goes from backup to all-pro. Got to properly compensate him. And Josh Sweat, Super Bowl hero, a 1 year, $10 million contract. He thought he should have been Super Bowl MVP. And that really would have made a difference, I think, because there would have been some team out there that just would have gotten googly-eyed over getting the Super Bowl MVP in free agency and possibly overpaid him. We saw that with Larry Brown when he was the the MVP of Super Bowl 30. We saw it with Dexter Jackson when he was the MVP of Super Bowl 37.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.